YouTube, why do you keep moving stuff around? YouTube, we need to talk. YouTube, have you considered you might have attention deficit disorder? You keep changing everything. Okay, so this is going to be tricky because in order for me to see what you're saying to me, I need to... YouTube, have you considered you might have attention deficit disorder? You keep changing. So I had two windows open, one with me speaking now and another with me speaking 2 seconds ago, and that's where the Q&A section has gone in a separate window. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to talk briefly about the notion that what you focus on grows stronger. And I'm going to give you some actionable tips, I hope, that might actually prove useful. That's my aspiration anyway, to provide something that's useful. And then I'm going to go through the questions that you've asked. All the handy questions that you ask, because I like answering those questions. That's always cool. What you focus on goes stronger. So I was thinking about giving you actionable tips. Now, if I tell you, do this, then do this, then do this, what happens? Well, for about 15 minutes to an hour after this is finished, you'll go, those are some great tips. I'm totally going to do that. Within 24 short hours, you'll barely remember what the third tip was. Within a week, you'll have forgotten the entire thing. It doesn't stick. The reason it doesn't stick is because it doesn't appeal to the unconscious. If we fail to appeal to the unconscious, if we fail to get the message through to the unconscious, none of the stuff sticks. How do we do that? You can do it with repetition, which means that I would have to kidnap each and every one of you, take you to my mind control center, and then just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it over to you for a long enough period of time that a neural pathway was laid down. Or I could whisk you off, take you to my mind control center, and through massive amounts of pain or massive amounts of pleasure, like traumatic amounts of pleasure or traumatic amounts of pain, ego-shattering amounts of a sensory overload, and give you the suggestions at the same time, then they would also be imprinted in your neurology. Psychedelics could help to imprint it into your neurology. Or I shall do what I will do in this video, which is to appeal directly to the unconscious through infecting your mind with pleasant viruses, pleasant bacteria that help. What you focus on grows stronger. I particularly am concerned, especially right now, with the way that we're encouraged to focus on that which we find irritating or anger inducing or frustrating or depressing, and we expend our precious time and our precious energy and our attention on things that make us feel bad and on things that do not feel good, that don't help us to move forward. This can be a really dangerous habit. As Eckhart Tolle has said in various ways at different times, there is something in negativity which the ego finds fulfilling. There is something in complaining, pissing and moaning, bitching and gossiping about other people that the ego finds enjoyable. It sort of reinforces the sense of self. By making other people wrong and reality wrong, you make yourself right and you put yourself in the position of being judged. So there is an appeal to it. And I see it, I dig it, and I'm not guilty of it myself, but I do it way less, I think, than other people do. So when people are looking at me and they're going, oh, you're doing okay, and you managed to make some things work in your life and you managed to get some traction, how did you do that? Damn you, you bastard, you. And then they're full of resentment. Actually, it's pretty straightforward. I've employed a discipline where I don't just let myself say the first thing that comes into my fucking head. I don't just let myself feel the first thing that my stupid brain wants to feel when I wake up in the morning or when something happens to me. I've discussed this before. Your brain is kind of set up, evolutionarily speaking, to be a pain-seeking machine. It looks for that which is wrong in the environment. And in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with that. It should do. As survival mechanisms, we shouldn't be looking at where everything is great and groovy and grand. We should be looking for the next potential threat. We should be looking at what hurts and what's difficult. But when that bleeds out to become a global template or meta program above all the other programs that we have running, we're constantly looking for what's wrong, it causes problems. It can cause anxiety and depression, hysteria, neurosis. And I think that's where we're up to right now. If I just say to you, don't complain, don't focus a lot of energy and excitement on other people's misfortune or where other people hurt you or where things went wrong, you're not going to listen to that. But if I say to you, you have a certain amount, a limited amount of this thing, this currency to spend. It's time, it's attention, it's consciousness, and it is the most fucking precious thing you have, and it's limited. And you're spending it whether you like it or not. It's not one of these resources you can ever save. You can't not think thoughts. You can't not be learning. You're always thinking, you're always learning. And when you sleep, you're processing that which you have learned. So if you imagine that consciousness is like a torch beam in the darkness, it has like a tunnel of light, a reality tunnel, and it focuses on certain things in the environment. It's never off. The only thing you can do is choose what to focus on and choose what to spend that energy on, that consciousness, that time, and that attention, which is so precious, which is so limited, which is so fleeting. And we do need to be careful of how we do that. Story. The unconscious likes stories and it likes metaphors. It likes imagery. I went to West Kirby Lake last week at midnight and I stood by the lake. I love West Kirby Lake. I had a proper revelation there when I was about 26 years old. I was very much more into Zen Buddhism and maybe more of a Japanese style philosophy, but I went there at 5:30 in the morning and walked around the lake. And when you walk around, it's like a marina. And when you walk around the outside edge of it, you can look at this on a map. The outside edge of it is then just beach, marshland, the River Dee, and then there's Wales. So you're actually looking out the Welsh mountains. There's nothing, there's no buildings, barely. There's nothing that blocks your view. It's just nature for miles and miles and miles. And it's just sea and then sky, and that's it. I was walking around there one morning and I thought, this is amazing. This is the most amazing thing. I was listening to the birds that are out there first thing in the morning, and I was just listening to the sound of the river and the sea further out. And I thought this is what people should be expending their attention on, spending their time and their attention on. Instead of looking at TV screens, this should be it. Hey, maybe that's why the Japanese have these gardens that you can sit in and just, maybe you have like stones there, maybe you have a water feature there and you just listen to the water running and you just sit in silence. You don't do any funky meditation. You don't try and squeeze your mind into some odd yoga position. You just sit and you just listen. You just breathe the air. You just get close to nature. So anyway, that was when I was 26. I had that revelation. That's called a nested loop in storytelling. I went there last week and it was not 5:30 in the morning. It wasn't the first thing. It was nighttime, dead of night. And the clouds broke whilst I was out there. I was just enjoying the darkness and enjoying the silence. It was so wonderful. No humans there. Not that humans are a bad presence, but everybody's so wound up and so agitated and so hypnotized and so provoked that actually their presence does become agitating because they're not calm. They're babbling. They shout, they screech, they make weird noises for no reason whatsoever, or their mobile phones are going off, or they just behave in strange ways. They'll say and do really, really odd things because they don't feel good and they're not calm. Their energy isn't inside of themselves. It's all over the place. And so not having anybody there was very pleasant. If I had centered people there, they would have just shut the fuck up and looked at the fucking sky, because there's nothing else. There's nothing more important at that moment than that. There's nothing. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to talk. You don't need to get your mobile phone out. You just stand there and you look in wonder at what there is. So I looked up at the stars. I'm looking up like that. And I go, oh, that's amazing, that. And I started to get a flashback. Now on this channel, we've been talking about emotional flashbacks. You'll see the series, the good one, the good series of True Detective, the first one with Matthew McConaughey. Yes, why yes. You should do, it's good. He took a lot of drugs and he took a lot of acid, and within the show he has flashbacks. Flashback, when I first heard of a flashback before PTSD, I knew about acid flashbacks, and I took acid when I was a kid, and I used to get flashbacks because I would take heavy doses, and I took it quite regularly because I didn't know it at the time. I was trying to work my way out of CPTSD. I was trying to get myself out of the crushing depression and crushing anxiety that I felt, and I thought that the psychedelics would accelerate the process of enlightenment. So anyway, I'm standing there, I haven't done drugs for years, and I look up and I can feel myself having a flashback, an acid flashback. And the best bits, because acid can be a terrifying drug, but the best parts of it are the initial high. You get a rush when you start coming up on acid. And I started to feel that rush as I looked up at the stars. I looked up and I was just staring up, listening to the sound, and I started to get an acid flashback. And it was so profoundly beautiful. It was such a perfect moment that I started to cry. And not much, not like, not like with the tears meld with the snot and then it goes in the corner of your mouth. It wasn't like, it wasn't like that. It was just like a, this is so fucking beautiful, man. And I started to think many thoughts. I started to think about what was eternal. I started to think about what was sacred. And I started to think about what was profane. Now, profane is not really a word that I use very fucking often because I'm quite a vulgar person, really. I swear a lot. A lot of my focus is on stuff that is pretty dirty and harsh. My work is holding people's hands and wading through the worst things that a human being can go through with them. So I've developed, well, there's that and various other reasons, like a tough exterior that permits me to be hardened to these things and vulgar and tough. If you think about, like, why do we say tough? Why is it tough? Why do you have to be leathery in order to get things done? Why is that associated with strength? So I started thinking about the profane and the sacred, and I started thinking about vulgarity and why sometimes vulgarity is necessary, but that maybe what needs to happen is we all need to learn. And this isn't a weird spiritual thing. It's not a religious thing. I'm not adding anything to you. I'm taking away, because it doesn't matter where you're from or how much melanin is in your skin or what your features look like. You're a human being on this planet. You can go outside and look at the stars and feel something or not, and have an experience or not, or maybe it's just quiet for 5 minutes. I don't fucking know. But that is your connection to something that is larger than you, and it's real. It's reality. It's not anything that's coming through the black mirror. It's not anything that's coming through the TV or through YouTube or through an electronic channel. It's coming through direct experiencing of reality, and nothing is more perfect than that. Nothing is more perfect than looking at the mountains of North Wales. Nothing is more perfect than looking up at the stars. Nothing is more perfect than the silence and hearing the tide slowly come in 3 miles away through the estuary. There's nothing. You can't write a song or make a TV series that comes close to that feeling. And I started to think about, this is something that is sacred, to just look up at the stars. And it's not special. It's not weird. It's not, and then nothing. So don't add anything to that. Don't go, oh, he said, look up at the stars, so therefore, because people always do that. I used to talk about psychic experiences and I deleted all those videos because people would go, oh, psychic experiences. Yeah, I'm a doctor from the planet Xanadu and I'm here to cure the human race of a disease that was left here by the Kazakian Badoogles. And I'm like, what the fuck? I just said that I was open to the idea of psychic experiences. Now you're telling this weird story. There's nothing to do with what I said. Don't add to that. Just do that. Just go outside and look. Just go outside and breathe the air and feel how that feels to just be in. Like I would say, do it during the day, but there's people everywhere, crazy people who are wound up. They wouldn't be crazy if they weren't wound up. Then that's not us. in our natural state. That's not who we are. That's not who we're here. That's not what we're here to experience. That is not what we are here to express. That is a deliberately enforced program. Because you can't fucking tax the stars, and you can't fucking put a tax and a timetable on me standing outside and breathing the fucking air and looking at the stars. You can't stop me. I don't need a fucking passport. I don't need a fucking national insurance number, a bank account. Fuck, I don't even need socks to do that. I can just go outside and do that. And nobody, it has nothing to do with anybody. Nothing. There's no politics there. There's no social justice warriors trying to monitor what I say or what I fucking think. There's nobody there telling anybody what to do. There's just you and nature. And that's real. Everything else is bullshit. They can't put a tax on the best things that are there for us. So that's why they don't want you looking at that. They don't want you outside looking at the stars. This is the kind of shit that would get you assassinated. You might think that is grandiose or persecution complex-esque. I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. They've killed people for saying this before. Every person who ever said, hey, have a nice time and love each other, they fucking kill. Because if everybody did that, it ruins the system. It ruins the game. They have to murder people who say that. So I'm not saying go out, love everybody and have a nice time, because I don't want to die. Whatever is the most dangerous, because I get this message, it'll go, Mr. Grannon, whatever the most dangerous thing is that you do, you're going to accidentally die doing that. Whatever the most dangerous. See, I like to travel and shit. So you just hear about me crossing the road in Malaysia and somebody, you know, trying to rob me for my mobile phone and they stabbed me and then I was dead. Oh, well, you know, I'm just kidding. Where am I? They can't put a tax on that. They can't stop us from doing that. So that's number one. Don't deny it. It's not weird. It's not woo. It's not spiritual. It's not religious. It's the air. It's the sea. It's a mountain. It's outside. And they can't tax that. So they don't want you doing that. They want you consuming what they've got for you. They want you feeding back into the economy. They want to bleed you in terms of in taxes. You're taxed on everything. You're taxed on fucking everything. Food is taxed. Fuel is taxed. The road is taxed. You buy clothes, it's taxed. And they take income tax as well, these greedy motherfuckers. They take everything. They enslave you. They rape you. They steal your humanity from you. They imprison you. And they make you beg for it. That's where we're up to now. People begging for jobs that are horrible, under horrifying conditions, under soul-crushing conditions. I live in London right now, but not for much longer because I've already planned my escape from this fucking slave camp that is run by the slaves in our insanity, in our, you know, just hijacked minds. I'm out. I'll never live in London again. God, what an awful, soul-crushing place. What an awful, awful, inhumane, disgusting place this has become. It's so awful. It used to be not this, but my God. So that's your first thing. And number two is start connecting with other human beings again, not on WhatsApp, face to face, and not just your circle of friends who you already know. See, they're encouraging us into a narcissistic style. They're encouraging us into destroying our compassion and our desire to help each other through trauma. Through trauma. They're traumatizing us into believing that we have no choice. They're traumatizing us into acting like dicks. They're traumatizing us because they know if you traumatize somebody long enough and hard enough, you kill their compassion and you breed a nation of psychopathic narcissists. Perfect. What's your obsession? My Instagram likes. What's your obsession? The next pair of trainers I'm going to buy. What's your obsession? Whatever's going to happen next on the fucking Walking Dead. What an ironic name for a show. They must have a good laugh about that. Everybody's waiting for the Walking Dead. Look at these fucking zombies waiting to watch a show about a world that's been hijacked by zombies and there's only a few human survivors left. And they're begging to be told that story. Like when they put out the Big Brother show. And they said, what are we going to do? We're going to film humans in a house doing nothing and feed that back to other humans. What should we call it? Call it Big Brother. That's a good one. You can't call it Big Brother because they'll realize, like, no, they fucking won't. They'll have no idea. They'll have no idea. Just call it Big Brother. Just shove it right up them. They're so used to having it up inside of them. They're so fucking numb that they won't feel it. So just fucking do it anyway. Just spit in their faces. They love it. They'll beg you for it. That's how traumatized we are. That's how slave bonded we are. And I see this now playing out, and it's hitting a upper limit in biology. I think this is called a carrying capacity, where we're hitting an upper limit, where things have to go wrong, where we've been waiting for things to go wrong for so long that we're almost kind of cheerful about it. Like, let's just make this thing go wrong. Let's just make the whole system collapse so that we can get on with the rest of our lives. So get back in nature, which means get back to reality. Walk outside your house when there's no humans there, when there's no traffic. So that was probably going to have to be at night or first thing in the morning. Check it out. I'm not lying to you. Check it out. Calm down. Don't smoke. Don't drink loads of coffee. Don't wind yourself up. Calm down. Walk through woods. Look at the tree. Listen to the tree. It's not that it's going to talk to you. Listen to the leaves. Listen to the branches creaking in the wind. Listen to the birds. And just chill there for a minute. See how you feel. Tell me. Come back and tell me I'm lying. But there's nothing there. There's nothing to be known. There's nothing to be seen there. It's the most perfect thing. There's nothing better than that. And other people, start to connect with other people, with strangers. You can't just, we can't just personalize every single element of our lives down to the finest detail and think that's okay and think that we're not going to get sick from that. No wonder depression and anxiety are epidemic proportions. We're in a camp where we're being tortured. We're in a camp where we're being dehumanized. And if you get the chance, you should go and watch the film I, Daniel Blake by Ken Loach as your homework for this week. Not saying anything bad against The Walking Dead. I like The Walking Dead show, It's the Daryl show, basically. It should be called Daryl and the Zombies. I like it. But I notice myself craving that. Why? Why? Why do I, what the fuck? What am I looking for? What am I looking for? To be distracted for a minute, for an hour, for 40 minutes. Why? From what? Who wants to be distracted? Why is it when you go on the London Underground, everybody pulls one of these out? Because they want to hide from the trauma of the experience. It's a traumatic experience because you're surrounded by people who are fucking miserable. So they get this out and then hide in it. I've started having a discipline now where the whole time I'm on the Underground, from one side to the other, I do not get my phone out. And I just bask in the trauma of it. I'll just go, right, I'm just going to look at people. I'm that weird guy on the train. Some of you have seen me on the London Underground. I look miserable as shit. But that's not that. I just have resting bitch face. I just have a bad case of resting bitch face. And then you'd be like, oh, are you Richard? Oh, hi, nice to see you. Hello. But I make myself look. I make myself sit with that just so I can see, just so I can experience it. God, it's awful. It's so awful. So that's the two things. Get back into nature. Start connecting with other people. Stop focusing on all this bullshit. Stop focusing on all the horror and negativity and where it's not going right, because you're just going to get more of that. You're just invoking more of that. You're focusing on it. You're invoking it. You're going to make it happen. People say to me, how did you turn it around? How did you change your life? How did you make a difference? The way I made a difference is back in the Christmas of 2013. I was broke as fuck, living in a happy garden, haha, in Kuala Lumpur, which wasn't very happy. And I realized that my mind was just a cesspit of negativity and self-loathing. And I was like, okay, well, what do you do? What do you do to change that? What do you do to stop that? I was like, well, everything I've ever done in my life has been through discipline, has been through consistently taking action over time. Nothing I've ever done has ever worked any other way other than that. So, okay, well then figure out what the discipline is that clears up the negativity. And I did it for a month or so and changed everything. I didn't even do it properly. I set I set goals for myself. There's a course that's going to be coming out soon called The Discipline that I'm going to make available to you guys, where I go into that in more depth and explain it. But you don't need that. You really don't need that. You just need to understand the principle. The principle behind it is dying. God, he went zen and spiritual. No, I'm not saying dying as in die, as in die to yourself, die to the ego. That's not. I'm just checking that you can hear me. I went on a bit of a rant there. Sorry about that. Makes me mad. Makes me really, really, really angry, and it makes me sad as fuck to see how people are living. I got friends here who've been living here for 16 years, and they can't see. They're slow-boiled frogs. They used to be here to work a 9 to 5. There's nobody in London I know who's working who does a 9 to 5. Everybody does an 8 to 8 and thinks nothing of it. I'm like, what? Did you guys miss a meeting? Like what? Like what the fuck? How are you letting that happen? How are you? And they're just like, well, you know, they won't go there because they're not letting it happen. If they say, I don't like this, then their boss will say, well, fuck you. There's 10, 20 people behind you who would love to have this job working 12-hour days plus travel 40 minutes either way, 13 and a half hour days. So if you don't like it, off you fuck. And that's the attitude. That's the whole attitude here. It's so hostile and so aggressive. Why? Because abused people tend to become abusive. People who are treated with hostility tend to become hostile. First time I saw that, I think I've talked about it on here before, is Thailand, where I noticed like the Thai people by nature, extremely polite, extremely considerate, smile a lot, very, very cheerful. And then you go to some of the tourist resorts and the Thais aren't like that there. In Koh Samui for a while, they had a problem where there were gangs of Thai boys, young boys, like teenage boys, wasn't particularly well reported. They covered it up, who would just go out and beat the fuck out of the tourists. Why? Well, if you want the answer to that, you should go to Koh Samui and you should see who's hanging out there, and you should see how the people who are hanging out there, where they've come from and how they're treating the Thai. Yeah, people get nasty when they're treated poorly, of course, like aggressive animals, like an aggressive dog. You get an aggressive dog, I'm like, well, that dog wasn't treated very well. So let's have a look at some of these questions here. I'm glad we can talk like this. I can get it off my chest and just tell you what I'm thinking. Wow, there's a lot of comments. Oh, let's go to the top. Okay. Chad says, time is a flat circle. I have no answer to that, Chad. Time is a flat circle. I always like I'm such a pain in the ass. I'm such a sci-fi nerd. Like I grew up obviously with the CPTSD in an abusive household. My escape was books. I like fantasy books and I like sci-fi books and I like the crossover ones. I loved the Gunslinger series. Sorry, it's called the Dark Tower series by Stephen King, which they're making into a film, which has Matthew McConaughey in it, and he's playing Flag, and he looks hot. Flag's not hot. They should have made Matthew McConaughey look all messed up for that role. But anyway, there's dimensional travel and there's time travel in that. But I can't enjoy time travel stories because I took too much acid. I told you, there's no such thing as time. Or maybe that's what you're saying, Chad, is time is a flat circle. Maybe you mean in a certain way, there's no such thing as time. It's one of my first major revelations on acid, apart from that stuff about the Garden of Eden and our true alien origins, is there's no time. And it was because I was really high and I watched water drip out of a tap, a faucet, as you would have it in America. And then it would hit the water and go blip. And my brain would go, the water dropped and hit the water and it said blip. And you knew it would do that before you saw it. And then after you saw it, you thought about the fact that it had just happened. And if you've ever taken a psychedelic, your mind just goes around and around and around the same issue again and again until eventually I came to the conclusion, there is no time. There's no before. There's no after. There's just now. There's just the moment before the water hits. And then there's just the moment after. It's all eternity. So now, like the other Matthew McConaughey film, let's stick with Matthew. He's a pleasant thing to stick with. Why, yes. the Christopher Nolan film where he goes forward in time and backward in time and saves humanity. And I just sit there going, I can't enjoy any story like that because you can't, it's a misunderstanding. It's the brain. Time is just a convenient model of reality, but of course there is no time. But we talk about time as though it's there in space, as though time is space, as though, like, if you imagine your living room, the present is over here, the past is over there, but it's not. It's not. It's just now. Anyway, what are we talking about? Time is a flat circle. Yeah, I think we're on the same page with that one. You just say it slightly different to me. Robert says that was crazy good. It was good because it came from craziness, my friend. It was unboundaried and raw. Meh, which, hope I haven't missed much. I love the subject today, yo. Love the subject today, yo. I don't know how that would be inflected. Yes, I do believe we have this lotus-making power within us that I feel maybe we are forced to tap into after being initiated by a narcissist. Perhaps. It could be that there is a kind of an enforced spiritual initiation. Not spiritual, don't say spiritual, an initiation, a psychological initiation that we're forced into through the pain of that. Jackie says, Richard, I have a question. Jackie, I have a question. Lonely lesbian lady. That's a nice handle. I can't visualize at all. I have aphantasia, Richard. Do you know what color your front door is? Beauty and love. Dr. Daggy says, lol this guy. Lol him good. If Richard, lonely lesbian lady, then says, if Richard was my roommate, I'd never be bored. But then you'd have to listen to me rant all the time. Yag alone says, I did acid twice. The second time I took 7 doses within 24 hours. Cool. Not cool. Don't do that, kids. Didn't want to come down. I changed my life. I did cry after the first trip as the sun rose and I couldn't reach heaven. Or Seeking says, hardened, vulgar, surreal, funny. Profane, verb, to treat something sacred with irreverence or disrespect. Yeah, profane. There is the profane and then there is to profane, I think. But yes, thank you for that, Robert. Bosie Queen, you can get that Russian nature in the natural state. Go there as often as you can. Erin says, that's why you're good. You tell it like it is. Thanks for that. So many questions here. Let's scroll until we find a question. No questions. Cool. Standing in the silence of the Sahara Desert, it was heaven, says Deborah. I want to do that a lot. And I want to stand in an American desert as well a lot. Okay. Okay, boys and girls. This chat thing is great. If you could hit me with some questions, that'd be awesome. Chad says, Bill Hicks, absolutely. I actually, on Halloween, there was so much, I was so stressed out over various things in my own personal life, you know, trying to leave London and all of that. And then there was all this weird stuff that was in the news about witch symbols and demons and stuff. I had a really, really strong nightmare, and God, it was creepy. It was like, I used to get these a lot, like the dreams of demonic attacks. And it was kind of like a Blair Witch Project scenario where I was in a room in an abandoned old house and I didn't want the demons to come. So I had to carve glyphs in the wall, but every time I carved them, they would disappear and I had to recite a mantra at the same time. And if I stopped, the demons would come. And I stopped because I got tired, and then eventually the demons came and it came in through the wall and it possessed like this piece of cloth, and the cloth started chasing me around. And I woke up and I was going, no, no, like a weird, like a yak dying. I woke up going, no, no, and pointing. And my heart was hammering. I was really, really sweating. I was really, really scared. And I thought, I'm really scared. What should I do? I know. I shall invoke the spirit of Bill Hicks from beyond the grave. Om Bill Hicks Namaha. And he came, and I felt better straight away. And I was like, who gets scared of a demon towel chasing them? Well, that's not scary. When I was in the dream, it was terrifying that this piece of cloth had been possessed and was chasing me around. But when I woke up, I was like, that is not scary at all. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Chad. Jay Graham says, Robert, that definition is better for profanity. Profane is essentially anything that is outside the sacred. The meaning has been altered somewhat in common usage, like many others, but still the same. I think there's a noun and a verb. I think there's two. I think that's the issue. Okay, scrolling down. There's a question. Tammy says, what I'm wondering, Richard, is what do you personally get from these videos? I know I get a lot, but I'm curious what you get back from it. Well, it's going to be a religious one tonight. Yep. So I'm not a religious person in some senses, but then maybe in another way I kind of am. I do like studying the Bible. Wait, don't switch off. Don't switch off. Your question reminds me of our Lord Jesus. No, wait. So, because it's a philosophical, psychological, sociological phenomena, it's there. It's come from somewhere. It's an idea. It's a concept that took root, and so I like to study it. Just the other day, I like to study it linguistically and psychologically and philosophically, and I'm like, where's this from? What the fuck are they on about? What does it mean? Blah, blah, blah. Just the other day, somebody wrote about forgiveness. An American guy on a Facebook page of mine was saying something about forgiveness, and he used it in a sort of a religious context. And I wanted to say to him, wouldn't it be interesting, story of my life this, wouldn't it be interesting if we could break down exactly what the word forgiveness was, that's reduced to one word in the Bible, which is forgiveness. And the Lord forgave, and Jesus said, you shall forgive. If a man sins against you 7 times, you will forgive him 7 times. And I was going to say back to him, wouldn't it be interesting to know how many words there were that were used in the Bible that meant forgiveness, and from how many languages? And I was like, before I do that, I'm going to look myself. So 2 hours later, I'm looking through etymology and Bible study things. I'm like, it's pretty interesting. There were at least, so there's Hebrew and Aramaic, and there's Greek. And so, oh God, I can't remember now. There was 2 Hebrew words. One of them was salah. There was Aramaic words and there was Greek words. And they all, I think in total, when you see the word forgiveness, which is one word in the Bible, you're talking about 7 words from 3 languages. And they all have a different inflection. And one of them, I was thinking about it, it's like, if you really went deep into what the meaning of it was, it didn't mean what we mean when we say forgive. It's like you need a different metaphor, you need a different concept for it. It was like, when I say forgive, I just say forgive. Oh, you should forgive the narcissist in your life. You should forgive somebody who's wronged you. It's like, it didn't happen. You know, they did that thing and they just get away with it and carry on doing it to somebody else. There was this word that implied, in Hebrew and, no, wait, no, wait. Am I saying the wrong words here? Yeah. So in Hebrew, in 2 of the versions of Hebrew, it meant to pick up the wrongdoing and an external force taking it away. In another version, it meant the grace, like a spiritual force that comes from the Creator, that kind of fires through the thing. And I was like, that's a different metaphor. That's like, if you said, apply a level of conscious awareness that was that you at your highest self to that thing that was done against you. So sin also is a word that is not very well translated and is written as different things as well. Sin is written as multiple different words. The Lord is written as multiple different words. Some of the words for the Lord and God in the Bible are plural. They're actually saying, and then the gods said. And some have even theorized that they're male and female. Like sometimes when the word Lord is used, it implies male and female gods. Let's not go there just yet. I do remember that a lot of the original writing was in Greek. So forgiveness in this context, if we said forgive and and you said, oh, okay, well, what, we had a new word. Maybe we use the Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew, and say salah or something. It means apply the highest level of consciousness that you have to the thing that was done to you, that erodes that thing like a laser breaking down bad tissue in the body. That's not what it said, but I'm adding something to it. And I'm like, well, what if the metaphor was different? What if the meaning behind the metaphor was different? It is. I mean, if you say one word and it's layered through different languages from different periods of time, it's a bit reductionist to just go, oh, and then Jesus said, forgive him. Well, no, he didn't. He might have meant Jesus. If you accept the different versions of the Testament, he's using different words when we just reduce it down to forgive. So when I'm studying these things, I'm trying to look for, like, it can't be nothing. And I don't believe it's nothing. I don't believe it's come from nothing. I believe all the major world religions came from something that is true, but they're perverted. This is not an outrageous idea. That idea actually exists in some schools of Islam, that the sacred books that we have are not the original books, that they're a new version. Don't ask me to back that up. It's out there somewhere. It might be maybe a Sufi thing, or it might be an Alawite belief, or it might just be mainstream Islam, actually. I'm going to have to look that up. I can't remember right now. So anyway, why do I do these videos? Because there's an apocryphal book. Not all the books that could have gone into the Bible. The Bible is one book, but you should really think of it as being multiple books, testaments, letters, diary entries. If you read Ezekiel, he was probably high when he almost certainly was high when he wrote some of his stuff. I mean, do you know there's big cocks in the Bible? Like Ezekiel wrote about women who really enjoy massive dongs. I'm not even making that up. I can't remember which bit of Ezekiel it's in, but he's talking about this woman who really likes Babylonian cavalrymen, which is like Iraqi horse riders who were well hung. That was her thing. Ezekiel's writing that, and I'm reading this. I'm going, Ezekiel, do you know this is going in the Bible, right? You know, people are going to translate this all over the world. For you might want to scale this thing back. The Book of Revelations got to be high. You got to be on mushrooms or something to write the Book of Revelations. So not everything got in. So some books didn't get in. One of the books that didn't get in was the Gospel of Thomas. Jesus is portrayed in some of these, the Gnostic Gospels and the Apocrypha, slightly differently, and in a way that the Council of Nicaea and that church thought was maybe not that good for people. So they just took it out. But there's a good line in there. There's some really good lines in there. If you bring forth what is within you, this is the Gospel of Thomas, which is not official Bible. Jesus said, and Jesus said in the Gospel of Thomas, if you bring forth that which is within you, what is within you will save you. If you leave what is within you without bringing it forth, what is within you will destroy you. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. I don't really have a choice but to make these videos. I don't feel like it's not about what I'm getting from it. I don't know, maybe at like an egoic, narcissistic level, maybe validation or something like that. But what am I getting from these videos? I feel like if I don't say, I'll go crazy. And my original ambition was to have 500 subscribers. I remember starting with like 120 subscribers and going, if I can get 500 subscribers, that means there's 500 people that I'm talking to, and I would consider that a success. And that means I'm talking to 500 like-minded people. And if I know there's 500 like-minded people, I can calm down and be like, okay, I don't need to kill myself because there are other people out there. Find the others. Maybe it helps me to find the others, as Terence McKenna said, to send up a flare. That was a long-winded. We started talking about the Bible and forgiveness there. That Bible, I was going to write a book about it years ago, back in 2010, when I was really into this stuff. And I sent it to a publisher, like the first draft, the first 50,000 words. And he was like, this is interesting, but it's really shit. I was like, oh, writing is a skill that you have to develop. I mean, I can write, but telling a story is a different thing. Okay. Deborah Atkinson says, London is good to visit. That is all. I totally agree with you. I totally agree. I still don't think I hate London, the city. London, the city, and the space that is here. When you walk around London 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night when all the crazy crowds have gone, what a fantastic, physically, it's a beautiful place. And there's so much history and culture. And if you're into the occult and conspiracy theories and secret societies, come to London. I mean, it's awesome for that because it's right there dangling in your face. They don't even really care. Why dangling? Charles Hay says, Richard makes Great Britain great again. I wish I could. What a place this has become. What a place. Okay. Richard for US president. You know, somebody wrote on Facebook the other day, they should make Anthony Robbins president. And I was like, actually, yes. Now, like, that's because the best form of government is a benign dictatorship, right? So if you force out, then you will be like, Anthony Robbins, he'd be crazy. We can't have that. No, you have at gunpoint, you just force him. You say, listen, comrade, the revolution has come and you're going to be president. And you have Slavoj Žižek as your VP. Nothing could go wrong. Secretary of State, Louis C.K. Obvs. I'm totally kidding. I have no idea what the solution to that problem is. It's soon. It's coming soon. And I'm going to be in America soon. I'll keep you guys updated, but I'm going to take a holiday in America. And I'm going to go to New York. I want to go to the comedy club and check that out. And then I want to go to Southern California where my sister lives. And I'm going to hang out on the beach and I'm going to learn how to surf because I wanted to do that for years and never got around to doing it. I'm going to take some time off. And then after I've taken that time off, I'm going to come and do some maybe meetup groups. I don't really know whether seminars will work in America because it's so huge. For fun, the other day I looked and the width of England and Wales is half the size of the width of Texas alone. You live in a big country, and people who follow SLC are all over the place. So when I naively was like, hey, why don't you all come to New York? I didn't really realize what I was asking people to do. So if you're in Texas and you want to go to New York, it's faster and easier for me to go to Africa than it is if you're in Texas and you want to go to New York. It's faster. Sorry, not easier necessarily. It's probably quite hard for me to go to Africa. But in terms of a plane journey, I can be in Africa in 4 hours. From Texas to New York, I think when I looked was like 6 hours. From LA, it's 6.5. I didn't really know what I was asking people. Foolish, naive European. You think you know America because you watch films. You know nothing. It's a huge place. Sherry Berry says, Alaska, time for Alaska. Yeah, I bet that would be beautiful. Going up to Alaska. Fritha says, 16 years in London, left in March. So glad I left. So agree with everything you're saying. You know, one of the great things about the horror of London is I go back to my hometown, back to the Wirral, and I like even my family are laughing at me about it. I'm going to the places where I grew up that I just take for granted. And I've become, you know, one of those people who's like, I am just so grateful for all this nature and the beauty. And I I feel so blessed. You know, like walking, just to be out with the dogs and go for a walk in the woods, and you stop in the woods and there's a little bit and you can just see Wales and you see Welsh mountains. And it's like, this is like the best bits of Lord of the Rings right here. Why did I ever leave? It's awesome. Not the North End of Birkenhead or Rock Ferry. Maybe I used to work as a taxi driver in Rock Ferry. Wow. That's a story and a half, maybe for another day. Kevin says, "No, don't take my Instagram." I know, mate. There are good things. I'm down on social media, and everybody's down on social media. There are cool things about social media. This is social media. I'm connecting with you guys. I wouldn't be able to do this otherwise. Connect with people on Instagram. Connect with people on Facebook, YouTube. It's fantastic. It's. Let me digress a second. So I was watching Neil deGrasse Tyson. Well, I wasn't watching. I was listening on YouTube. Argue jovially with Sam Harris about artificial intelligence. And Sam Harris has adopted a position where he says we should be worried that artificial intelligence could take over. It could get to the point where it actually becomes the enemy of humanity. Neil deGrasse Tyson says that's never going to happen because no matter what we do, we have an off switch. So I was listening to that and I was like having the argument inside my own head, which is like, comrades, there is a third way here that you have not seen, the third danger, which is that it's not Skynet or desktop PC that you can just pull the plug out of. It's not the Matrix or just switching off your mobile phone. Artificial intelligence is already impacting our lives, depending on how you define artificial intelligence. If you say that if you say, well, if it hasn't passed the Turing test, then it's not artificial intelligence, then I back off. But if you will expand artificial intelligence and the artificial intelligence that will be the first that we use, it won't just be a complete automaton computer that is self-aware, that can have a conversation about Shakespeare or the economic growth of a South American country. It will be in advertising. It will be in Facebook ads. It will be in your mobile phone to help you find a shop. It will be in the way your mobile phone interacts with the shops you're going past. That's where the artificial intelligence will start to break through, and it's already happening, and it's already impacting us. It's already there. How many times have you used this when you can't remember the name of an actor from some film? This is a form of intelligent interface. It requires me, so I'm applying my intelligence to an artificial thing or to an algorithm or to a device, and there already is that interaction, and it already is having an effect. It affects the way we talk. It affects that, when did I remember the first times back in 2008, 2009, me and my friends actually started to say, just like silly things like the verb to friend somebody, or saying lol instead of laugh out loud, which is actually a thing that nobody ever said anyway. So how did lol become lol? Or I really enjoyed saying lamau to people. I'd be like laughing my ass off, LMAO, and I would just go lamau. Now it infects the language and it infects our perception of reality, and to that extent it's already taking effect. Whose question am I answering here? Lonely Lesbian Lady says, I get lost in this sometimes. My ad is like, what's he saying now? Even I don't know what the hell I'm saying right now. Oh yeah, social media, not necessarily a bad thing, but maybe some of the bad things that can occur with social media start very small and they're very unintrusive, and we think it's helping us, but actually it's kind of corrupting and perverting the way we interact with reality and with other people. Okay, Charles says Richard is a conspiracy theorist. Absolutely. Okay. Deborah says, Richard, you are the son of David Icke. Okay. It's okay. No questions. People are just kind of agreeing with me. Jeff Thompson says, I've never seen it, but Daryl and the Zombies sounds like a good band name. Yeah, no, The Walking Dead is a good show. There's a big upset recently because of a certain narrative twist that they were compelled to take, that was extremely, gory and upsetting. But again, this is an example of how social media has started to influence the world, and it influences art, and it influences the decisions that directors have to take. They know that if they can get people doing YouTube reaction videos and furious on Facebook and furious on forums, it's great marketing for the show. So they cynically, as writers, have to have that narrative device, that mechanism that gets people talking about the show. I think one of the worst examples of that, or the most blatant examples of that, was in Family Guy, where they killed Brian and then brought him back, and they said to Seth, his surname escapes me right now, that's weird, I can usually remember his name, he just said it was to remind people that it was a good show, and it worked, so DDD. Has Rage says, people who hide behind the computer screen all day that troll others online that have no idea what they're talking about, the internet's full of them, is one reason I don't play MMORPGs anymore. I don't know what that is. I sometimes play Call of Duty. On there, I'm called Spartan Sufi. You can friend me. We can shoot some zombies sometime if you like. Okay. Beep, beep, beep. No questions? No questions? No questions? Oh, Iona. Let me see if I can get this right. Takachova says, Ritzy, I feel like I have an ally across the world every time I hear you speak. You encourage us, you treat us with respect, and you taught me how to feel my feelings and the meaning of empathy. Thanks. That's good. That makes the effort worthwhile. Okay, ladies and gents, I'm going to wrap it up there, mainly because I'm flipping starving. Went to the gym, supposed to go for about 20 minutes, be conservative, just do the lifts you're supposed to do, and then leave. An hour and a half later, I'm a sweating mess. So that's the joy of CPTSD for you. Right, guys, I'm going to stop there. I hope you find that useful. I hope that some of what I said had the emotional impact and the impact enough on your unconscious to make it stick. You do need to try and use some discipline that makes you take consistent action over time, and that reminds you not to get sucked into the matrix of materialism. You're not a consumer. You're not a machine of pleasure. You're not a flesh bag. You're more than that. And you only need to go and stand outside and look up at the stars to be reminded of that. It sounded kind of cheesy, but I'm not going to ruin it by changing it. Go outside, look up at the stars, and you'll be reminded you're not just a flesh bag. You're not just a consumer. You're not just a number. You're a real person. God damn it! You're a real animal, straight from the ancient forests, just like Avatar. I'm going to go eat. Thank you very much for listening to me rant and go on, and I really hope that was useful and helpful for you. Please do focus on that which you would want more of. Don't expend your time, your energy, your thoughts, words, and deeds on the things you don't want. Expend that good stuff on the things that you do actually want. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. Stay happy, stay positive, stay strong, and I look forward to speaking to you all again soon. Thank you. Awkward gap where I don't know how to turn it off, so I fill it with a dance and a song. Hey. Bye then.